So now we're going to talk about personalising your brand and really how to tell your story as a person of authority and authentically, really. So why is storytelling your most underrated marketing tool? I'm going to dive into this in a sec. So the reason why I think that it's the most underrated marketing tool out there when using social media. So people buy from people, and we all know that they buy from stories as well. So telling your personal, authentic story, that could be either of your business, things you've experienced, or just struggles and triumphs as a business owner, founder, and someone in a specific industry or niche really will hit better with someone rather than just telling a bland old message on a piece of content. So think about who's currently using personal branding within their marketing that will maybe resonate with their audience. Who's doing that well? Is there someone that you can think about right now that would do that? Yeah. So who's currently running ads in this room? Okay, so there's a few of us really. So looking at that then, we know that personal brand it wins organic followers over. So we have things like top of funnel, bottom of funnel, and middle of funnel content. Important to remember that each piece of content at a different stage is for different purposes when it comes to telling your story and being authentic through your personal brand. So ads are for undiscovered and new customers or potential customers. It's a promotional tool, so we'll approach the content very differently than we would if we were speaking to our ideal client who has been following us for a long time, if that makes sense. So did you know that 92% of consumers want to make brands, 92% of consumers actually want brands to make their content to feel a little bit more like a story rather than a sales pitch or a fact-checking tool. So what I mean by that is shooting your content in a way that is compelling, empathetic, engaging, and exciting for people to watch. And a general rule of thumb I always say is if you're not excited about your content, then nobody else will be either. So, question, what's the one piece of proof or a story that you could tell right now that's going to get people excited about working with you and really show your authenticity off, or your personal brand off, your personal opinion off, without offending people, I may add? So how can you build trust with your audience through personal brand, story, authenticity, and also looking at getting your opinion across in a way that really excites people to want to work with you and wants to stay with you as a customer for a long time? So just think about that for a second. So we're just going to move on now to the 3 key credibility markers and a bit of an activity. So I want you to write down maybe something like a nice testimonial or comment you've received. We're going to turn this into content, by the way, in a second. So a result or transformation your brand has helped someone achieve, a proud moment or win, personal or client related, that has maybe shows off authenticity, shows off how you can help them. Or it may be a product or feature or an article or a professional milestone that you've reached that shows off how you actually can relate to your ideal client or give your authenticity and also authority within the niche or the space that you're in. So just go away now, have a real good think. If this doesn't come to you straight away, maybe take it home later and think about this. But yeah, so they're the sort of key activities that I want you to think about. How can people buy into you as a person, not just the brand or the logo, and make you more credible to work with? Looking at content, of course, there's some psychology and storytelling and brand building and trust building that comes into it, even if you don't realise that you're doing it yet. So why does storytelling build brand trust? I hear you ask. It shows stories and it shows active emotion, and also that goes into the memory in the brain, and they feel something about you, they feel something about your brand, and also the way you conduct business, the way you conduct your service, and the way, even when they've not even bought from you yet, you conduct how you are on social media. If someone has an interaction with you on Instagram or LinkedIn, say, They will remember how you made them feel. Even if they are not your customer yet, they will feel how your content makes them feel, if that makes sense. So we all know the know, like, trust methodology. That's sort of given in marketing. So I want you to ask yourself now, how can you transpose that to your brand? How could you make people feel a certain way about your brand through the types of content that you offer? It may be actually looking at the way you shoot things rather than just boring, sat at a desk, very bland and vanilla. Think about putting some excitement and some energy into your content, and I promise you people will be more engaged with it. Think about what excites you, like I said earlier. We want your content to be an absolute magnet for your brand story. We want relatability, resilience, and results. Obviously, if we don't get this up at the top here, we're not going to get the results at the bottom here. So in order to get the results, we need to make sure your content is relatable. So by sharing things like real life experiences that your audience buy into, that's a really important one, audience buy-in, and that they actually relate to. They can almost see themselves in you or the brand. This could be done in a couple of different ways. So it could be UGC style videos, it's relatable in settings, or includes values of your ideal customer that matter to them. It could be resilience then, let's have a look at that. So let your audience see the challenges you've faced as a brand, as a business owner, or even before you started the business. Was there any reason you almost didn't start the business? I think you've got to build the trust and show your personality, not just show your polished wins, but also show the rawness as well. And I think in this year, 2025 and beyond, raw content is going to be paramount. So get vlogging, get showing the behind the scenes, day in the lives, that sort of thing. Because when it's real, your audience will absolutely buy in to what you're doing. And they're more likely to trust you. So when we're showing results then, it could obviously, the staple before and afters, testimonials, that sort of thing. But that's just a given. So we're looking at showing how your values and the journey create the results for your customers, and so otherwise known as social proof. So we've spoke about these three core elements that are magnetic, but also diving deeper into that is your origin story, your transformation, your proofs and values. So let's go a little bit deeper into that, because what I've just said to you just now may ring true, but you might not be sure yet about what we're actually talking about here. So let's have a summary of this. So first up, your origin story then. So your origin story really explains why you do what you do, why you love what you do, hopefully, and why people should want to work with you. Because when you put passion into your business, your customer service, your fulfillment, and also your marketing, people will see that and they will recognise that. So it doesn't go without saying that this should be done always. It's not always about better. It's about quality and getting the right message across that resonates. So looking at transformation then, that could be the moment of change that you had, or an insight into why you decide to put a certain coaching offer on, or why you want to formulate a new product, say. It should always be relatable to your ideal customer, or ICP as we call it. And that's your story, and that could be your starting point. And lastly, proofs and values then. What do you know now and how do you want to do it? So that's essentially your mission and values. So then we come on to what I call the trust triangle. So this is a bit of an activity now, and we're going to have a go at looking at how you deliver the results, who you want to help, and why they should trust you. So if you just have a look at this trust triangle here, you can see here in the how, this is things like your method, your product or your process, and who your ideal customer. But don't just say, I want to help females that are overweight. Be more specific than that. What problems do they face? Have they tried coaching before, for instance? Have they got any specific barriers? Why would they choose you? What are they looking for? If you're looking for a coach, what are they looking for? And also why they should trust you. So relevant stories, going into the origin story again, background and experience. So this is your social proof essentially. So I want you to ask yourself now a deep question. If someone landed on your website, any of your social media, or any sort of front-facing online platform, what would they assume you offer, and how would they gain this trust here? Who would they think you help, and how can they see how your process is? Does that align with what is actually true and what actually is what you want to deliver? If it doesn't, it may be time to start shifting things up a bit with your content, also your highlight reels and your pinned posts and your bio. Because when we do that, everything aligns together. So what we want is omnipresence everywhere on all digital platforms, not just Instagram, but also your website and your landing pages, your link tree. It needs to be cohesive and it needs to go together to tell a story of your brand. So wherever someone lands, if it's on YouTube or you've got an Instagram, they need to have the same sort of feel and tone and branding to it. So I hope that makes sense. Go away now and think about these 3 points and how people are going to trust you and how this looks online when they come to your profile. So when we're talking about the trust triangle then, why does it work? So firstly, it's relatable because people buy into people, and also they buy into you, your values. I think we've said this already, but they buy into that before they even get in touch with you, to be honest. So if someone's coming to your social media and they are probably doing a little bit of a secret shopping experience on your profile and decided if you are the type of company, coach, business that they want to buy from. They're probably low-key stalking you for a few weeks or even months. I've had people come to me after years even, so it's important to stay consistent with your content and also keep the same authenticity and values within it that matter to you and the business. So the mission then, this is where customers buy into your mission. You'll find you'll usually attract the similar sort of people to yourself. So you'll find that people buy into your mission, the values you have, and the service you offer reflects that. So it's important to remember this when you clearly communicating what you actually offer, because you will find that you will attract people just like you. So I think there's a massive opportunity now for founder-led brands to really capitalise on getting your personal brand across and also making sure we communicate that. This brings everything you do together, and it brings vision, mission, value together for people to buy into. So I hope that makes sense. Let's talk about that. Here's a quick example. So this is one of my clients, Will, who runs Crush Supplements. Now, this is a very new business. So Will uses TikTok Shop a lot on TikTok. He personally appears on there. He's a small team, but he's doing absolutely amazing. So I know that he's made lots of sales on TikTok Shop since pivoting to that. Before that was just on Instagram. But the point I'm making here is he's only 24-year-old. He doesn't glamorise what he does. He often talks about having non-fulfilled orders, the stress of actually fulfilling his successful business. So the success of his business sometimes leads to problems, and that's okay, but he's so transparent with that online. But also looking at how he does things. So he's doing lots of lives, unfiltered content, but then in between he will do some products, factual stuff as well. There's some photos we did here on the shoot as well. He's giving people a reason to follow his journey. On LinkedIn, he has a slightly different narrative, but similar, so it is cohesive on all different platforms. So moving on to another great example, which is Jonathan Lundy at Fluencers Group. So Jonathan set up initially Gymfluencers, and they are a marketing agency for product brands essentially. So you can see here, he's showing on a post, he's showing his personal story where he transformed himself and his body. And then he's talking about that, he lost 30 stone, he's very open about that. And this is on LinkedIn, which is a professional platform. And then he's saying he's obsessed with the industry he works in. He constantly buys products from the brands that he works with, and his passion is Very long. A lot of his posts are very text-based as well, so you have to really read them and consume them. So in doing that, a bit like YouTube, you're consuming his content and getting a trust-building exercise with him and gaining trust. He's gaining trust from his audience. Then he's showing off some social proof as well with different types of people that he works with, and he absolutely loves what he does. The passion really comes through on his posts. So he's now got a worldwide team. He works with some of the leading health and fitness brands. And his personal brand, I like it because he shows vulnerability. So he shows his personal brand and he shows vulnerability and loyalty, care to attention, and also his passion for his mission, most importantly. So I think this is a great example of founder-led storytelling. So let's just have a look at some faces that you may know then. So looking at people like James Smith, Joe Wicks, Richard Branson, Ben Francis from Gymshark. So your story is your signature, even if your product isn't front-facing. So it's important to remember that. If you are a product brand right now, if your product is front-facing, then even though it is, I think it's important for you to sometimes present your own story of how much you care, your mission, just like Jonathan did. So just remember that your story absolutely is your signature. If we look at James Smith first then, he absolutely is unapologetic. We all know that. Very direct. His story style is very disruptive and he calls out the industry almost, and he's honest. His personality is very honest and his content is quite blunt. Some people love him, some people hate him. I think it works because his content is quite polarising and that creates loyalty. He's created a following that actually love him for what he does, so even if you don't love him, that's okay because you're not his ideal client. And then we're going to move on to Joe Wicks then. So he's the everyday hero coach. And he's got great energy, he's more relatable, he's very relaxed, more like a dad type vibe. People buy into his brand. Obviously started out with books and recipe books and then they exercised in lockdown. But his story style is very relatable, it's high energy, family orientated, and it's meant to make people's lives easier. So it's a bit goofy as well. It's become a household name, I think. So it works because he makes fitness feel real and easy and accessible. So that's where his content is very easy to produce for him because it's just a very day-to-day, behind-the-scenes type content that's never overly polished and it's very authentic. Now we're looking at Richard Branson. Obviously he owns Virgin. His brand is his personality almost, I feel. Obviously I don't know him personally, but he's very adventurous, visionary, risk-taker, and his personality really is the Virgin brand, I feel, after reading his books and studying him for many years. I feel he's made business fun as well, a bit like Alan Sugar as well, made business fun, and you remember him because basically he has that adventure side to him. And if you look at Virgin, obviously that's about holidays, travel, a similar sort of vibe. So can you see here how your personality really, and your story, really is your signature and is the brand. So moving on to Ben Francis, one of my favourite personal brand people. He's gone from bedroom to global brand. He's only young, but his origin story really is baked into Gymshark. And I think he is obviously the owner of Gymshark, but he definitely has his own identity outside of the company. And he's on YouTube as well, so if anyone's not watched that, please watch that. But I think it works because his audience is really buying to his mission. Especially because he's so young, I think, showing that success at such a young age, like how did he do that? That's inspiring. So when he's showing that and they're watching that unfold, they're really buying into him, which in adverse effect, buy into his brand, Gymshark, as well, and go and purchase. So if we're looking at a simple storytelling framework then, we're looking at problem, the turning point, your realisation, what you do now, why it matters to them. That's the sort of basis of what you're looking at when you tell your own story in social media. So if we're looking at the different formats of this then, we're looking at Reels, YouTube intros, about page, sales pages, workshop intros, and everything else starts here basically. Any way you come into contact with people, this is where you should start and let them get to know you before anything else. So here's a few prompts for you to maybe fill this in either now or later. So there was a time I used to think X until I realised X. Now I help others. So go away and fill those in, and that's a quick piece of content you can instantly create, even if it's just a few sentences.
Hi, I'm Ruth and I'm a personal trainer and nutrition coach. I worked in the corporate world.
So how do we tell a story without the cringe? Because I know many people are very conscious about this, and they don't like telling their own story because they feel a little bit self-conscious. I'm going to show you a few examples in a moment that's really going to help you with this and help you see how it doesn't need to be so cringeworthy. So number one, here's the tips for talking to camera like human version that I've created for you. So we're not a sales machine. I hate to break it to you, but stick to one main point, plan ahead and keep it short. That's essentially it. So here's an example from my client Ruth.
Hi, I'm Ruth and I'm a personal trainer and nutrition coach. I worked in the corporate world for nearly 20 years and I've decided to transition to become a personal trainer. I fell in love with exercise and fitness a few years ago, and I want to help other women fall in love with it as well. So I want to teach busy women how.
So also avoid buzzwords and anything you wouldn't normally say. Use language that you would always use, and it needs to be you basically, not ChatGPT or what someone else would say. And then looking at B-roll, this is a fantastic way to support your storytelling, and it can be utilised over and over again and almost overutilised. So I hope you know what B-roll is. If you don't, that is short video clips, maybe 7 to 10 seconds long, where you're going to do a routine task, something that relates to what you're talking about. You can put text over this. You can put long captions in there. It generally gets very good engagement in my experience. So how can we use this together then? So we can clip this together with your story, events, behind the scenes, overlay text, voiceover. So this makes creating videos really easy and not necessarily cringeworthy. And just, you can have a bank of it really when you're talking about B-roll. So making sure that we're doing some speaking to camera stuff and some B-roll stuff and a mix of other things, client examples and sort of social proof in between. But what can you share then? If we're still not sure, then you could share authority content. So I want you to have a look at doing a little activity and make some notes now. So you should make the content feel easy, entertaining or fun to talk about on camera or in a post. Maybe you could share how you help someone see and let them see your story and how they can relate to that and see themselves in your story. So how do we tell the story then? So things like showing behind the scenes of people, the journey, for example, sourcing ingredients, packaging, feedback if you're a product company, and then overlaying your story as a voiceover and with captions and text on B-roll. You could also pair this with voice and testimonials from testimonials of your clients to reinforce the transformation that you offer. Looking at creatives, so before and after. So things like then versus now or this versus that style really works well. It's quick, it's easy and it's really simple because you know your audience, you know what you offer and you know the transformation that you can offer. So telling that in a piece of content should be quite easy. We can do that through B-roll again. We can do it through showcasing clients and their faces, and we can add more information in the caption if you want to keep the reel nice and short. So let's look at a few live examples of people that I know that we can look at here. So the first one is B-roll with voiceover. It's from Aaron, he's the owner of Start and Scale. So let's have a quick look at that.
Oh, no, 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 no. Yes. Ooh, okay. All right, that what we do? Okay. Started the day off, heading out to Birmingham. You know, still got to get hands-on with some of these shoots. Quality assurance, Mr. Branch. Checking out the site, we're finding investors for this incredible development. Into the showroom, checking on the team, presenter, check, squad, check, BTS, check, kit list, check. And now we're heading over to one of the new locations. Unbelievable amount of steps taken on this day. I should have worn one of those Fitbits. 10K in the bag. Going on to some other outfits, some other scripts, into the cinema room. If we're living on this site, you get access to this amazing cinema room. And we're shooting some podcast-style interviews with the main man himself, Mr. James Dickens, CEO, and some of the renders from the day. Checking again to see how we progress.
So I think this works well because he's showing his point of view literally through his Meta glasses, and then he's showing transformation, result, and social proof and behind the scenes. It just works really well. It's a different perspective. I know he's in love with the Meta glasses. Then we're looking at Maddie's B-roll over text.
One day, you're going to meet someone who appreciates you for who you are. I mean, there's 7 billion people on the planet. I know one of them is going to climb up on the moon for you.
I think that's very good. It's short, snappy. The text isn't that readable, so we could obviously improve that, but she is actually a social media manager, and she's basically utilising her emotional story, a personal brand story, and just, it's very relatable and quick and sharp. And then if we're looking at the direct-to-camera stuff / product placement from Chemical Warfare and Zach Khan, it's very punchy.
You're gonna have days when you feel like shit. You're gonna have days when things are going right. You're gonna have days like today when it's raining and you don't want to go to the gym. But you know what you gotta do? Go to the gym. Don't fucking fail today. There is only so many tomorrows before you're gonna say to yourself, I wish I did it yesterday.
Let's get hard. Let's go.
It's very him, it's very on brand, it's very unapologetic. They are great examples. So, your origin story isn't about making you the hero. Sorry to break it to you. But it's about making your ideal client or customer feel seen and so they can relate to you. So when you get this right in your marketing, it becomes almost magnetising, which is what we spoke about earlier, and it attracts your ideal customer, it attracts your ideal audience, and you'll get better quality followers or better engagement from the people you want it from. So if you have any questions, please just let me know and I'll answer them, but that's it. So that's how to utilise your personal brand in your content. I hope you've enjoyed this section, and yeah, thank you for listening.